Today I've got 10 lies about prospecting success. Now, if you believe them, you probably won't be finding a lot of gold. So I'm going to go over each one of them individually and correct them so that you can become a better prospector. These are all things that I've had people tell me in the past, and sometimes when I tell them that that's not true, they want to argue with me. And the truth is, some of them even, of course, told by different people, some of them even contradict each other. So, let's get on with this. Hey, I'm Chris Ralph, the professional prospector, and today we're digging into some wrong-headed ideas that will keep you from being successful in your gold prospecting. We're going to examine each one individually and go through them all and talk about them so that you can better understand and be a better prospector by the time you've watched the end of this video. Our first up is that the old-timers got it all. You can't believe how many people have told me this kind of thing. I've found some really nice amounts of gold over the years, but mostly people who've never prospected, tell me the old-timers got it all. There's really no meaningful amounts of gold left. And sometimes when you show them that just isn't true, they're really surprised. Some years ago, my wife's sister and her family, her husband and her kids, came up to visit us, and I took them out to a place where we could go panning for gold, but there was also water there and the kids could play in the water and all. But I told my nephew, their son, that, hey, I'm going to bring a gold pan and we'll pan some gold. And he was really skeptical. He kind of like, nah, he didn't really believe old Uncle Chris that he could find, maybe a speck or two, but nothing of any significance, right? So, and this is a place that honestly hundreds of people go to. It's a worked public place. And so I brought my gold pan, and after we'd been there for a little bit, I said, hey, come on, let's go pan for some gold. And he was kind of like, whatever you want, stupid Uncle Chris. And, I don't think he was a teenager yet, but he had some of that attitude. And so we came over and I found a little crevice and some rocks, and I dug the crevice out, and then I showed him how to pan for gold. And when we got to the bottom, even I was surprised. There was a flake about the size of my fingernail, my pinky fingernail. It probably weighed a third of a gram, something like that. And maybe a little more. Anyway, and then of course there were some little other bits in there too. And he saw that big, that it wasn't a big flake, but he saw that nice, decent flake, and his eyes just went, and he was all excited for a while. He wanted to come up the next summer and spend a lot of time prospecting with Uncle Chris. And so, sometimes being proved wrong can be a good thing. Okay, our next lie, the second one, is that the old-timers, it's kind of just the opposite. The old-timers left gold everywhere. It's easy to find. And again, kind of like the first one where people think the old-timers got it all. This is the opposite, but it's also believed mostly by people who've never found any gold before. So it's the other way around. The old-timers just left gold everywhere. They didn't know what they were doing, and they just left. I've had multiple guys tell me this in, maybe not in exactly those words, but in something very similar. And, mostly, like I say, it's people who've never found stuff before. But a while back, I had a guy who said he knew where there was some gold in Alaska, and he was planning to go up there and take a pan and a sluice box, and he figured that he could make, $1,000 to $1,500 a day. I mean, you get half an ounce to an ounce every day, and you could really clean up, and he figured that it would be no big deal for him to go up there, and he wanted me to give him some advice before he went, to what to take and how to do it, because he'd never done this before. Well, I had to disabuse him of that idea. I said, look, maybe you will find a place that's the old-timers missed along a stream, and, maybe you will do pretty good, but you gotta figure your odds are against it. And I told him, you'd be better to go out there and test it, take a week or two and go out there, test the area, spend a week or two out there, rather than committing to spending your whole summer doing that before you've even tested it. And so I didn't really listen to me. I think he went out there, figured, gold's easy to find and he's going to go out there and find his share of it. But the truth is, gold is expensive for a reason. If gold were easy to find and it were everywhere and you could just go pick up pounds and, find nuggets all over the place, gold wouldn't be so expensive. Gold is expensive because it's rare and hard to find, So that's another one that's just simply not true. Our next lie is that you need a mining claim to find gold and everywhere is claimed. This basically means that everywhere is claimed, so you have to buy a claim. You can't find gold without a mining claim, and everywhere is claimed. Everywhere that's any good is claimed, and so you have to go out and buy a claim. This is one that's kind of promulgated by guys who sell mining claims, right? The guys who sell mining claims, they find guys that want to find gold, and it's like, hey, you can't find gold without your own mining claim, and everywhere good is claimed. I've got some to sell you, okay? And this is a falsehood. It's wrong. The truth is you don't need a mining claim to find gold. There's areas that are either public areas. The area that I took my nephew to that I mentioned a few minutes ago, that's a public area. It can't be claimed and anyone can go there and put the pan in the water and do it. And there's also my famous piece of advice that not everybody wants to take. In fact, I said it's my best piece of advice that nobody's interested in is to join a mining club. If you're there and you just want to get into gold prospecting, well, look in your area, check Google for prospecting clubs in your area, and there are a number of them, and join one and get active. Jump right in. Usually these clubs are looking for people to, help out and do things, and if you jump right in and say, hey, I'm willing to help, you're gonna be somebody that the club is happy to see. And you get to know people, and there'll be people that will train you in person when the club is having an outing. It's like, hey, I want to know more about gold. Well, there's guys out there who've been successful that are part of the club and will tell you, what they know. And you'll make some friends. What's wrong with that? That's all good stuff. But most guys want to be out there and secreted, but the truth is that either public areas or club areas that have their own claims are both really good ways to access, to access the field. Now, the truth is not everywhere is claimed. That's wrong too. That there's, I'm saying lots of the good areas really are claimed. And if you want to do research and find your own mining area that's unclaimed, you can do that research, okay? I know what I'm doing. I do a certain amount of research every year, and I always find areas that are open to be claimed. Now, sometimes I want to go claim them, and other times, it's like, this is interesting. Let's go inspect it first, and then we'll decide if I want to go claim it. So there are areas, if you do enough research, it's kind of an art to learn about researching mining areas, to look at old reports from the government that say, well, in 1882, gold was mined here, and they had a mine from 1882 to 1901 or 1905. They were there for 20 years mining gold. Well, some of those are really good areas, and you've got to check and see. You got to get a list of those areas where gold was found in the past and then start checking them. You have to learn the coordinate system. I got a couple of videos all about staking mining claims if you're interested in that aspect of things, but I advise people strongly against, starting out by buying a claim. Like I say, it's the people that sell the claims that promulgate this lie because they want you to buy a claim. And they want you to buy their claim, right? But the truth is that, that's not the best way to do it. And I always advise people, even if you have the money, learn how to evaluate a claim on your own. If you could, if you had the skills to go out and test it and see if it's worthwhile, then okay. But if you don't have that level of skill yet, join a club, go to public areas, that kind of thing. Learn the skills, then buy a claim, okay, or stake a claim. So that's my third lie. Is, you know, there's other ways to do it. You don't need a claim, and not everywhere is already claimed. Okay, so my fourth lie is basically that you need $10,000 worth of metal detectors, accessories, and other equipment in order to be successful at finding gold. And that's also just not true. I think that maybe is promulgated by people who sell metal detectors and other equipment. The truth is, I can go out and find gold with just a pan and some hand tools. And honestly, if you took a new inexperienced guy and me, and you gave the new inexperienced guy the best metal detector on the market and other equipment, assuming he's brand new, right? He's a totally new greenhorn, and you gave me a gold pan and, you know, some hand gardening tools or digging tools, and then said, okay, let's give it a day and see who has more gold at the end of the day. The truth is, it's 99 times out of 100, it's going to be me that has more gold, and all I have is a gold pan. What's the difference? Well, I know how to find gold. The truth about prospecting is that your equipment does not really find gold. It helps you extract it, but you as the prospector have to know what you're doing and go out there and find the gold for yourself. That's how it works. You know, you can run a metal detector all around the ground, or you can dig, you know, a cubic yard of material and run it through a sluice. But unless that material for the sluice has gold in it, or unless the metal detector runs over a nugget that's shallow enough for the metal detector to see, you're not going to find any gold. But you have to take that equipment and know what you're doing and go to the right spots and find gold for yourself. So really, you don't need a huge amount. And I recommend, like in my book and stuff like that, I recommend, hey, start small. Don't start by spending a huge amount of money and thinking that, hey, the old timers left gold everywhere, it's easy to find. I've met more than a few guys who believe number 2 and then believe number 4 at the same time, and then go out and spend a whole bunch of money, and then go out there and find out, oops, there isn't gold just everywhere. Yes, there's gold to be found. It's not like the old timers got it all in number 1, but the truth is, gold is expensive for a reason, because it's rare and difficult to find. And so learn the skill of finding gold first. That's by far the most important thing. All right, lie number 5 is you can make big money prospecting, so quit your day job and just go out there and dig. The truth is, like I say, gold is rare. The old timers didn't leave gold everywhere. Yes, they left some, and they kind of got the easiest stuff, but there's other stuff out there to be found. And so, you know, you want to have a realistic idea. Now, I've known guys who actually know what they're doing and are successful prospectors and have the knowledge and have the skill to find gold, and they do kind of quit their job and go out and dig for gold. And the truth is, pretty much all the guys that I know that do this, that make a living off of prospecting, their living is really meager. They're living out of the back of their truck. You know, they're eating beans and other inexpensive stuff, and you know, living kind of hand to mouth, not really making a lot of money. But you know what? These are guys who really enjoy prospecting, and so they go out there and do it, not because they're expecting to make a big hit and, you know, next thing you know, they're buying a $500,000 house and you know, a new car and everything else. That just doesn't happen. Now, the truth is, there are people who make some big strikes, and I have some stories that I could tell you, but I'm gonna not reveal names and that kind of thing. But people who've made basically, you know, retirement level strikes of gold. These are few and far between, okay? There's not many stories like this, and I have to go back decades in order to be able to give you a few of them. So, and again, it's by people who know what they're doing. So if you're a greenhorn, if you're just getting started, if you're new to prospecting, if you've gone out and found out about how difficult it is to find gold and how rare gold is and why it's so valuable, you won't be saying this to yourself. Again, it's something that, people make this mistake. It's just not that easy. And one of the other things about, even when you're out there living in the field and doing that hand-to-mouth existence, you have to make repeated strikes a lot of times. And this is how I'm out there. I'll prospect for a while. Let's say I make a nice find and I'll clean that area all out and get some nice gold. But eventually all patches and nugget spots, eventually they give out. Big beautiful crevices full of nuggets, but eventually it gives out, right? You mine that out and then you're looking for some other place, right? And while you're searching, you're probably not finding much. So, and the old timers were like this too. I mean, they make a strike, whoo, yeah, great. They're good for a while, and then, that all runs out eventually. You've got to make continuous finds in order to really be successful with that kind of stuff. So, I don't advise this. Don't quit your day job. Stay in there. Learn about prospecting, because, like I say, even the guys who I've seen do this, they do it because they love doing it, not because they know they're gonna make a big lot of money. Gold prospecting is, there's a chance that you're gonna make that big strike, but you gotta accept that the odds are low. I've had days where I've found, couple $1,000s worth of gold. Other days that I found 1,000. Other days that I found 500. But days of 500 or better are small in comparison to days where I get 15 or 20 or that kind of stuff. And really, the guys who are out there doing it, they're not getting that much, and they're working really hard and living hand to mouth and not really getting that much more than they'd get if they were working a minimum wage job. Certainly a job that was significantly more than minimum wage, they'd be making more money doing that. So again, it's a choice, but it's just not true that you should quit your job and go out and find that gold. Yeah, that's another prospecting lie. Okay, number 6 is you need to hike in a mile or so to find decent gold. That any place that's easy to access, it's already been pounded, it's already been worked to death. Whatever gold can be found there has already been found. Sometimes these are guys that are looking for an excuse to get an off-road bike or something like that they could take up into the high country, that kind of stuff. And, it's just not really true. A couple of my best nugget patches, and these are both patches with multi-ounces of gold, were found actually in well-traveled roads. Dirt roads, of course. I'm not digging up the asphalt. But these are dirt roads back in the backcountry. But they're both roads that, assuming it's dry, you don't need four-wheel drive to get up there. And so these are roads in the road, multiple ounces of gold, digging up dirt roads. That's, if you can drive to these places. So the truth is, a lot of times these are guys that, they don't want to drive anywhere. It's like they live someplace, maybe there's, no gold near them, and they just, I don't want to spend an hour or two driving to some place where I can get gold. And because if I do that, I'm still going to have to hike way in. Well, the truth is, there are places that you have to hike into that have decent gold, but there's decent places where you can drive and walk, 50 or 100 yards, and even a few that the nugget patch is right in the middle of the road. So, it's just not true. One of the things that kind of goes with this is the idea that you need to go to the places that not everybody has gone to. And, you know, I mean, that's kind of what the idea of we have to hike in a long ways to get to decent gold. That's not true, but you do have to kind of go places where not everybody looks. And in fact, I did a video on places that people don't look for gold. I'm going to put a link to it up here. And one of the places that it lists that often have good gold that people don't search is in the road that they drive on, because the road tends to be trashy. That's another thing is, you know, people drop stuff, stuff falls off of cars. You know, there's often more junk in the road than there is outside the road. But the idea is you want to prospect where not 10,000 people have gone before. And that takes a little creativity and a little bit of being able to look at an area and recognize what's good. But the idea that you have to hike in a long ways and therefore you have to be super fit and, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, you know, if your fitness level is really, really poor, you know, you may have difficulty, but you don't have to be, you know, some Olympian hiker and, you know, level racer, you know, a marathon guy in order to be able to get to where there's gold. I'm certainly not a marathon guy. So don't think that it's, you know, it's something you have to do to hike way in to be successful. It's just not true. Okay, our next one is that finding gold requires no special skill or knowledge. But, you know, this is almost, you know, just flatly untrue. But a lot of guys think that, you know, that are new. It's like, well, I don't need to know much to be able to go out and find, you know, lots of gold. I don't need to have any special knowledge. You just go out there. It's the old timers left gold everywhere. There's lots of it. You know, again, this is things that people say that haven't really found much gold. The truth is, you know, that some guys are just more successful than others. You look and there's some guys that regularly find decent gold, and then you may be saying to yourself, I go out and I hardly find anything. I have a lot of days where I get skunked, and yet this guy's going out and finding gold all the time. The truth is the reason that some people are more successful than others is that the more successful guys have more knowledge about finding gold. Again, I keep saying this, your equipment doesn't really find gold. You have to take it to a spot where there is gold in order for your equipment to help you extract the gold from the ground, whether it's sluicing or metal detecting, dry washing, whatever you're doing. You have equipment that helps you get the gold out, sure, but it's you that finds the gold. It's you that takes your equipment to the place where the gold is. And having that knowledge is what makes the difference between the guys who are not very successful versus the guys who are. The guys who are successful often have spent more time prospecting. You know, I have a book, and my book can help you a lot to gain that skill of prospecting and finding gold. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later. But the book, you know, can take you so far, but you got to get out and dig yourself. You got to get out and try it yourself. Book learning is good, but it only takes you so far. There's an extra special level of finding gold for yourself that gives you that knowledge and confidence that you can go out and find some gold. The guys that are successful, they do research, they check out things and know where there's going to be gold. What, you know, if you have some place you're looking, well, where does the gold occur there? Is it, you know, in crevices in the bedrock, or is it in this stream but not in another? You know, is there an old hydraulic mine? Well, where should you look in the old hydraulic mine? You know, that kind of knowledge is what makes the difference between the guys that are more successful and the guys that are not. Our next lie of prospecting is that sampling is unnecessary because we already know it's super rich. You know, sometimes they add, so-and-so told me, Uncle Joe said this is a really rich area. We could just go here and find lots of gold. So we don't need to take any samples. Well, I have several stories of people who have told me stuff like this, and they all end really badly. All right? I met a guy one time, and he had sold his house. He lived in the Bay Area and had, I don't know whether he owned the house outright or just had a lot of equity, but he sold his house. He bought a placer processing plant. He bought a front end loader. He bought a bulldozer, and he had a claim in Nevada, and there was some water nearby, enough that he could run his placer plant. And so he went out there, he put his placer plant in, he got his dozer, he started digging in various areas alongside this drainage that had some gold in it. And he went out there and did all that, and he spent 3 months. We got a trailer that he could live in while he was out there, and he had his 2 sons come and help him. And in 3 months of running his placer plant, of digging with the bulldozer and going in there with the front end loader and loading up his placer plant, and it was a good placer plant. It was a commercially made one. It wasn't something that some guy strung together, on junk parts or something like that. It was a good plant. And in 3 months worth of work, he got 3 ounces of gold. That wasn't even enough to pay for the diesel that he burned through, generating electricity to run the plant or using in the bulldozer or the front end loader. So, even after pay, he lost money. He didn't even pay for the fuel that he had to consume. And, it was a summer lost, and the guy got so depressed, he just kind of abandoned his equipment. So, if he'd have sampled beforehand, if he took, a whole bunch of samples, he would have known, this area wasn't good enough to work. I mean, it has some gold, but it's not terribly rich. He had told me that. I asked him, how'd you sample this? And he said, no, we know it's rich. Like, okay. I've known other guys who have brought in equipment, and I had a guy tell me, I have to make 3 ounces a day in order to be profitable here. And I had actually sampled some of the area, and I said, look, you're not going to get anything anywhere in the ballpark close to 3 ounces in a day. And I actually stayed with him that day. He ran the day that I was out there anyway. He ran his equipment, he dug a lot of material. I even kind of said, I found some nuggets here with my metal detector. You might want to dig this soil. And he ended up with something like, I think, 3 or 4 pennyweight, not 3 or 4 ounces, 3 or 4 pennyweight. A far cry from what he said he needed to be profitable. So, sampling is super important. And the truth is that sampling is one of the big differences between small miners and big mining companies. The big mining companies, when they have an area that they want to work, whether it be hard rock or placer or whatever, they sample the heck out of it. They sample it and sample it and sample it and sample it, because there is as much time and money it takes to sample it, it can prevent you from going out there and spending a huge amount of money, spending much more money, and then going out there and looking and not finding anywhere near what you expected. So don't just assume a place is rich. Take samples. And this is a good hint even for the small prospector too. The small prospector, you go to an area, take samples and find the good areas by sampling. If you're going to do a big operation, take samples and learn where the best areas are. Or if it's not economic, like I say, that's the lesson of the big mining companies. They spend big money to sample before they commit big bucks. Our next lie is number 9. If you don't find gold right off in a place, just give up and move on. I've seen a lot of guys do this. Whether they believe it as a lie, I don't know, but they act that way. So, if somebody acts a certain way, I think that reflects how they think. And so if you go to a certain place and you take a few samples, you do a little mining, you dig some stuff, that's, and you don't find a lot of good gold, then, you just give up and move on. That's not really the thing. Persistence is a huge important factor in prospecting. Sticking with it and really giving it the full try. I've had plenty of areas where the first time out, I didn't do all that well, but it looked good, and so I came back and tried. And part of the thing is, when you try multiple times, you learn a little bit about an area, where the gold is, where it's decent, and then you can focus on what you've learned about that particular area. But if you just give up, you're not going to come back. You've written this area off. It's no good. I've made some really big finds by being persistent. There is an area I'm thinking of that one of the places, first times I went, I didn't find anything but trash with my metal detector. I think the second time I didn't find anything but trash with my metal detector. The third time, I think I found some nice gold, a couple of good sized nuggets, and I was really encouraged. And I kept going back, and I found many ounces in that area, but the first couple of times I was there, I didn't do very well. But I was persistent. I stuck with it. I didn't let my discouragement get to me. I hung in there and was able to make some really good finds. So like I say, persistence and being willing to learn a certain area and learn the details and really give it the full effort without giving up, that's an important key factor in prospecting. And like I say, if you believe the lie, you don't find it right off, you should give up. It's just not true. Our final lie is that when you dig for gold, number 10, everywhere is the same. It doesn't make any difference. You dig here or dig there, it just doesn't make that much difference. So, there's no, this is, again, kind of a discounting the skill of it. The truth is, gold almost always is spotty. It's here, it's over there, but it's not everywhere. Even in a gold-rich stream, you can go to one place and do really well, or you might go to another spot and hardly get anything. I've plenty of times seen places or conditions where, one guy digs in a certain area and maybe he gets, 3 or 4 little colors, hardly anything, and another guy maybe 50 feet away gets 3 or 4 pennyweight and does really well because it's spotty, and this spot is good and that spot isn't. You need to be able to read the river, read the spots, and see where gold is gonna be. And so it's, again, this is a kind of a going back to the skill thing, but knowing that every place is not the same is really important. I'll tell you a story. One time I was out metal detecting with a group of guys, and it was a big area that had been mined by the old timers, but there was some nuggets that were missed in their equipment. And some of the guys found some nice nuggets. And I was going along on a trail, or along this trail, and the trail teed into another trail that, like, we're going this way, and then there's a trail that goes this way, and it just stops at that one. So I got to the trail where it teed, and I turned one direction and went detecting off in that direction. Well, another guy in our group who was, I don't know, a couple of minutes behind me was going on the same trail, got to that intersection and turned the other way, right? He didn't see me turn one way or the other. He just got to that and by guess and begolly turned the other way from where I had turned. I went my way and found, more trash, just some old nails and pieces of tin can. That guy turned the other way, went 10 feet and found a 2.5 ounce nugget. So, every place is not the same. And recognizing that makes you a better prospector, because well, this place isn't good, but I should try that spot. And if that place isn't good either, well, I should maybe try the other one. And that's part of persistence and sticking with it and sampling and finding where the good gold is. It's one of the important things. And like I say, the more knowledge you have, the more, because there's a bit of knowledge that goes with all of these lies, to know they're wrong and know why they're wrong. And by knowing that stuff, your skills go up and your odds of success get better and better. The more you know, the more likely your prospecting success is going to be. And so I mentioned it earlier that I wrote a book. It's called Fistful of Gold. And it's because I want you to be able to go out and find Fistful of Gold. It will help bring you to a higher level of skill. And I recommend the book, especially to new guys, but even to more experienced guys. I've known plenty of guys who were pretty darn experienced and read the book and said, wow, I got a couple of really great ideas out of this. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my book right now. So this is my book, Fistful of Gold. You can see it's an encyclopedia distilling down my 45 plus years of prospecting experience plus my degree into the parts that you need to know.
I spent most of 10 years writing this. It was not just a simple effort that, I sat down and wrote it. You can see it's like 250,000 words. It's not something you're going to read through in a day or maybe even a week or more. But it's got a lot of information and reference material that you can come back to. You can read it once and read it again and get more out of it because there's just that much depth of material in this. I wrote this book because I want you to have the skills to go out and find fistfuls of gold for yourself. And if you have the skills and know what you're doing and get out in the field and make a real effort, you can find significant gold. It's not easy. I'm not going to tell you that because, gold, it wouldn't be, close to $2,000 an ounce, which is what it is right now. It wouldn't be so expensive if it was easy to find. It's not easy. You just can't walk out into an old gold field and start picking up nuggets. If the gold was easy to see and find, the old timers would have picked it up and taken it themselves. So you got to have skill. You got to know what you're doing. You got to be able to master what it takes to find gold, and you've got to have the persistence and put in the effort to find the material, to find the gold or diamonds or gemstones that you're looking for. Now, this book has geology, it has facts about gold, it has stuff about diamonds and platinum, but it's mostly about gold deposits, how gold deposits form, how placer and nuggets form, all the questions you've probably wanted to ask. The book is available on Amazon, and I'll put a link to it in the description below, but you can look up on Amazon, Fistful of Gold, and by Chris Ralph, and find this book. Now, the book, if you look at it, it has a very high rating. It has like a 4.7 or 4.8 out of 5, which is really high. I mean, it's hard to please everybody, but I'm close to a 5 out of 5, not far from it, right? So it's been out. I've sold more than 15,000 copies of this book, and I've had tremendous response, tremendous positive response by the people who buy it. And I think if you buy it, you'll be just as happy with it. Now, in addition to my book, I also have a website that I do, and I'll tell you a little bit more about my website and show you some images from the website right now.
Now, my website is nevadaoutbackgems.com, and I'll put a link to the prospecting page, this prospecting encyclopedia page, down in the description below, but you can find it at Nevada Outback Gems. I sell some jewelry, turquoise, other gemstones there. I don't always keep the inventory perfectly up to date, so if you're interested in anything you see, do contact me first before trying to send me money or anything, because I want you to be able to get what you order. But the website has lots of different stories, old adventures, even some stories, true stories from the old-time miners of the 1800s. So I think it's something you'll find interesting.
The other thing I want to go back to is that all my comments, I want you guys to ask questions on the comments for my videos. I answer 100% of the comments that are made on my videos. Now, sometimes if somebody just says, hey, great video, I really enjoyed it, the comment may just be, well, I'm really glad you liked it. Or if it's a simple question. And sometimes I get people who ask me questions, I would take a book to answer that question. And I recommend that they just buy the book. But I answer all my questions. I try to help people as much as I can. I'm here to help you. So if you're interested in gaining the skills, if you're interested in knowing what you need to know to be successful, follow along with me. Subscribe to my channel, hit the bell so that they'll let you know when I come out with new videos, and I try to do that pretty much every Saturday morning. And you'll enjoy with me, you'll come along with me, we'll have an adventure together, and we will find some nice gold and see what it's really like getting out in the woods, or the deserts, or the mountains, wherever we land, wherever the gold is, wherever the diamonds are, wherever the platinum is. Come along, we'll have some fun. And I'll see you real soon on the next video.